We're going to have a very interesting talk today about something that's very unusual when it comes to traffic, because traffic in Mexico is managed by the 3 levels of government, and they do not always do things very nicely together. And also the subject of safety has been dealt with not very well in the various parts of the country. I could give a long talk on that. I will not. I'd much rather introduce our speaker of today, because Adolfo Cervantes, during the time when Lucy was our president, he was serving as a head of Transito in San Miguel De Allende. That's why I got to learn, Adolfo, and I think we have both learned from each other a lot about traffic and what to do about it. So Adolfo is a very active person, active in his work. I still remember when he was trying to get the young people to use the safety helmet, and some of them were very mad about it and ran after him, and he had to actually move very quickly to get away from the big crowd. But I think nowadays they are more ready to use some of these safety issues. And there are many other things related to traffic and mind earlier this year. And I'm not going to say anything about it. I'll let Adolfo talk to you about it. But the thing is that it relates to all people at all levels of government. But that's not the interesting thing. The interesting is it relates to every citizen of the country. There are not many laws that relate to all the citizens of the country. Very often there is a difference, the way you are treated, different from the level of the federal, the state, and the local. In this case, it is we are all in the same situation. So with this very short introduction, can I please ask Adolfo to take the floor? Adolfo, thank you very much.
Primero que nada, quiero agradecer como sanmiguelense y como mexicano el trabajo que hacen los rotarios en San Miguel. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Rotary, because all the things that they have doing since they started here in San Miguel. On behalf of my people here in San Miguel, thank you for everything. Thank you for having the opportunity to be here. This is the second time that I have the opportunity to be here. About maybe 10 years ago, or I don't remember the last time. Well, today, if Diego can help me to run, today I would like to talk about what you should know about the general law of mobility and road safety. Next, please. The proposal will guarantee the right to save. Yes? Yes, sure. Here? Sorry. The proposal will guarantee the right to safe, equitable, inclusive, and accessible mobility under a systematic and safe approach. It defines coordination mechanism between the authorities and the 3 levels of government and society. The hierarchical use of the road is established, and evaluations were chosen to obtain license. Minimum safety features are established for vehicles market in Mexico. Creation of a national system of mobility and road safety. Distribution of powers between the orders of government. This is the new configuration for the mobility hierarchy. Pedestrians with an equitable and differentiated approach based on gender, people with disabilities, and limited mobility. Cyclists and not motorized vehicle users in the second label. Users and providers of the public passenger transport service with an equitable but differentiated approach. Service providers of transport and distribution of goods and merchandising, and at the end, users of private motorized vehicles. What are the highlights of this new law? All of the drivers must have driver license. And this is an important thing. For example, here in Guanajuato, it's a state who regulates the license. In my experience as a traffic director, maybe 4 from 10 has a driver license. Now, everyone needs to have a driver license. The step preferences for the pedestrians when they want to cross the streets, no, now it's going to be a national rule. The speed limits, Carl, you were talking about speed limits. Okay, it's going to be very clear what is going to be the maximum speeds in a downtown area, in suburban areas, and on the federal roads. The use of the seat belt, which is going to be for everyone. The use of technologies for violations. Instead of having papers that maybe too many people doesn't know what are they writing, or sophisticated technologies to control this. The child safety seat, obligatory. The wheelchair restraint for the public transportations that use people with wheelchairs, they need to have the locks to keep it very safe. The vehicle standards. In some version, and all of these taxis doesn't have airbags, ABA brakes, doesn't have sophisticated safety systems, and now more than 10 years to be approved because of the pressure of the car factories that they don't want to remove all these cheap cars, and now they need to have all these features. The mandatory use of helmet that we started here 12 years ago with I have a lot of fans. The probing on the phone, I mean, it's one of the most popular cause of accidents, people distracted with the phone. The cell phone holder, I mean, you need to have a cell phone holder. The breathalyzer test for the alcohol, that is going to be standard operation in all cities, in all the country, anytime. I mean, it's not going for parties or for festivals, I mean, it's going to be normal to see the breath test. The vehicle weights and dimensions, one of the largest problems in Mexico in the highways is the weight of big trucks and things like this, and the prevention measures. The General Law of Mobility and Road Safety established criteria to generate local legislation that will reduce traffic accidents and improve the lives of people who travel through cities, streets on a daily basis. As Eva told us, this law has been approved in the Mexican Congress early this year. And before the end of the year, all the states are going to approve it and start harmonizar. I mean, it's going to synchronize the different states' traffic rules, municipal traffic rules, according to this new law. said system will propose the technical specification of the vehicle fleet instead of defining them, and then different government bodies must avoid taxing the Federal Motor Transport Service, private transport, and the auxiliary service. The law defines the concurrence between the federation, states, municipalities, and rural demarcations in matters of mobility and road safety, as well as the mechanism for their proper coordination. Road accidents are the leading cause of deaths for infants, girls, boys, and young people. In addition, it is the second cause of death for people between 25 and 30 years of age. Emphasizes that mobility is the right of everyone to move and have access to the comprehensive, quality, sufficient, and accessible mobility system that, under conditions of equality and sustainability, allows the movement of people, goods, and merchandising, which will lead to the exercise of other human rights, so that people will be the center of the design and development of plans, programs, strategy, and actions. The law, made of 82 articles. Does anybody in these rooms have read the local traffic reglamento? Does anybody know how many articles do we have here in San Miguel? This is the national. In San Miguel is 168 articles, and nobody knows. Find it on the internet. Long time ago, they published, they give it when you obtain the license driver, so people can at least read it. But nowadays, this is going to be 82 articles. Outlines the principles of mobility and road safety, the hierarchy of mobility, the rights of victims of traffic accidents and their families, the public policy instruments for mobility and road safety, for infrastructure, traffic, in-demand management, awareness, education, and training in mobility and road safety, distribution of powers and coordination, metropolitan coordination agreement, and the social participation of the federal entities, municipalities, territorial demarcations, and metropolitan areas. The law shall enter into force in the day following its publication in the official Gazette of the Federation. The Congress of the Union and the legislatures of the federal entities, with a period not greater than 180 days, counted from the entry into forces of this law. They must approve the necessary reforms to the laws and competence in order to harmonize them with the provision of this law. Thank you very much. Please.
When is the law go in force?
I assume that in November will be ready in the rest of the states. Nowadays, in different states, he's discussing, approving, and start changing the local reglamentos in order to follow this new law. But I think it's November this year that will be alive. Yes.
So I'm curious, how will this affect the average citizen who's driving around town?
Excuse me, I didn't.
How will this affect, will there be any changes that we're going to notice? Will we have to do things that we didn't have to do before? I mean, how is it going to affect the average person in San Miguel?
Well, first of all, because this is a new law, we must have a serious campaign to let them know about this new regulation. For example, for the people that is going to have the first license, first time, they need to have a special training to obtain it, based on this law for the beginners. For the already drivers, they must know that nowadays, if you commit a violation here or in Celaya or in Tuxtla Gutierrez or wherever in Mexico, it's going to be the same law for everywhere. Nowadays, you can be drunk in San Miguel with less than 0.25 milligrams in your blood, but maybe in another state it's different. Now it's going to be the same everywhere. So it's going to be an important campaign to let them know that this is going to be effective.
Who is going to enforce all this? The problem I see is the municipal police cannot stop traffic on a federal or state highway, so they can't enforce it. AMLO has now said he's going to take the National Guard and move it into the Army, so there's nobody left to enforce it.
Well, it's a very respectable opinion, but I don't share it, because now the citizens, the people is going to know about this law, and the people is going to make the pressure with the local authorities to use these basics of safety road, okay? It's going to take time. I'm agree with you in terms of the capacity of the local police. No? I mean, that's another problem, not from the citizens, from government, in order to have the standards, the basic standards to follow the rules. But rule number one is that you need to know as citizens the law. Today, if someone of these police stop you because one of your lights in your car is not working, he's going to tell you, we need to take your car to the corralón, or you need to pay me 1,000 pesos for this. And because you don't know the law, you will give them a bribe, okay? But if you know that the cost of the violation to doesn't have a light costs 25 pesos, or if you go to AutoZone and buy a new light that costs 14 pesos, no? As soon as the people know what is the law and what is the cost if you make a violation, these policemen cannot take and do that. So rule number one is that most of the citizens must know what are the rules. Mm-hmm.
So my question has to do with driver's licenses. So with all these new rules, I have a Mexican driver's license, and I was fairly straightforward to get it. Are they going to require tests in the future to renew them? How long will a license last? Because it'd be kind of hard to take a written test in Spanish for me.
As I understand, with this new law, one of the first steps is the driver license. Okay, that means that they need to reformat the system that has been using till today. For example, question number one: have you used a driver school? Did you take a course how to drive? Is there any driving schools here in San Miguel? No. You need to take a course with someone, professionals, that teach you the basics, 10 rules, no more than 180, just the basics, in order to go and make the application for the new license driver, okay? And one of the one of the things that is going to happen, according to this application of new technologies for the violations, that in case that you commit a violation, they are going to track you. Is this the first time? Oh, yes. This is the third time that you are drunk in the car. So your driver license will be removed, and you are not going to have the opportunity to have another driver license. So I mean, just to have the driver license is not too easy to go and obtain it and do wherever you want. I mean, people will need to take care to have their driver license clean. Mm-hmm.
So some of these things that you were mentioning do exist in some other countries, and so it's nice to see it's coming to Mexico and very widely, more widely than in those countries actually around the world. And that's why I think it's very interesting to follow up with this new law.
Yep.
There was some. Yes.
Okay. Adolfo, I have two questions. The first one is for those of us who have driver's licenses from other countries, Will we be required to have a Mexican driver's license? And if so, how much time are we given to get that license?
As I understand with my experience about 10 years ago, a validated driver license from everywhere, it's valid in Mexico. No, I mean, if you have a driver license validated, I mean, that has not been caducated, it's your driver license is okay, because we understand that you are a citizen, that you live here, but you have this driver license.
Okay,
Something
great.
that I remember in my experience that I had stopped a car and the driver license from States, and this person doesn't know how to read.
Thank you. My second question is, how are the residents and citizens of Mexico being informed of these new laws?
Well, this is, as I told you before, this is going to be, with groups like this, is the campaign to start letting know all the people. I mean, most of the states, most of the municipalities need to create these campaigns and turning from now on, maybe 2023, these are the new rules. And one of the things that I try to tell these authorities is to reduce the local, instead of 160 articles, maybe 50, no more than that, the basic, that people will really understand what are the basic rules to live together in the streets, the public transportation, the cycles, the pedestrians, the motorcycles, the new kind of motorcycles, everyone have to do something with this everywhere.
Yeah. Yes, it appears to me that you have some rather, not you, but this proposal has some rather expensive changes, and I was curious as to where the money is supposed to come from. I mean, we're talking about you're replacing 90% of the taxis in San Miguel. You're looking at some pretty significant changes, driver's training, things like that.
I think that with the start of a new law, expenses must be important. But what is most important? The money of the cost of a life of one person. Okay, if the taxis...
Where is money coming from? I was not debating the moral difference between money and lives.
Okay, if you're a taxi driver and you have a taxi that doesn't fulfill the regulation, you need to change your taxi, your car. That's it. I mean, you need to, if you want to be a taxi driver, you need to fulfill you need to have airbags, you need to have the seat belts, you need to have the ABS systems on your car. I mean, if you don't want to do it, you cannot be a taxi driver. That's it. That happens everywhere.
Yeah. Did I understand right that the child car seat is going to be mandatory?
Yes.
Yes?
For
So
child.
what's going to happen with all these mommies that have like 3 children when they need to take it to school? Like, is that going to be forbidden, or how is it going to work?
Yes. If you have child less than 6 years old, you need to have chairs for them. Perfectly lock it to the car. Even at 20 kilometers, which is the speed for the city, if in one moment you just stop for wherever, the child's go there. So if you want to move your children in your car and you have 3 children, you need to have 3 chairs located in the specific, not in the front, seated in the back. I mean, it's for the safety of your child. Wow. The motorcycles, and this is important. When you have your license, for a motorcycle, you're supposed to learn how many people can you have in your motorcycle. When you have a vehicle, you need to have the license plate. In order to have the license plate, it will give you how many people can you transport. For a pickup truck, for example, there's a bench for 3 people, no more than that. And that's it's registered on the tarjeta de circulación. That happens on the motorcycle. There are some motorcycles for one person and maybe for two persons. But here in San Miguel, it's common to see the whole family. The whole family. Try to ride in a motorcycle in the back of a driver without using your hands. Try to do it once. And she's taking a baby, and there's another baby here, then the driver, and another child. In that, if using this law, actually local law, the actual law, stop, down, take a taxi, take a bus, and if you are doing again, I'm going to pick up your motorcycle because you are taking risks. Maybe he's the best driver in the world. Maybe he is. But in the other car is a lady, a man, just talking with the phone. Blah, 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 blah. Who is responsible? And all the family die. All the family. Just because, I remember, oh, it's cheaper for us to transport this way instead of the public transportation. We need to find out the solution for these kind of persons with these specific situations. If we need to have free rides, I mean, the government has enough money to have special vehicles just in case that you don't have the money to pay the public transportation, no? But it's something that we need to, we need to have the streets safe for everyone, for the pedestrians and for everyone.
I have a question on insurance. Is insurance mandatory when you have a car? Do cars have to have insurance? And do you have any idea of what percentage of cars have insurance in Mexico?
Yes, it's unfortunately a very bad situation. Fortunately, now we have the Seguro Daños a Terceros, third-party insurance, that it's very cheap. When I say cheap, it's about maybe 1,000 a year that you pay, that in case that you have an accident, the insurance is going to cover the other's damage, not yours. And we have that terrible experience with workers, carpenters, people who has an accident. You have seen here Lamborghinis, Mercedes-Benz, Audis, Rolls-Royce, the most expensive cars. Sometimes can you just imagine a family from La Cieneguita have an accident with wherever accident? Thousands of pesos that you need to pay. So he need to sell his machinery, his stock in order to pay that. So one of the things is to be mandatory to have at least the third-party insurance to protect these specific drivers.
Yeah, on the summary there, it seemed like a little bit of contradiction there. Now, prohibit the use of phones.
Do you use it?
It said prohibit no permitida uso de teléfono. Pero también una porta, también un porta, abajo de eso dijo porta teléfono. Entonces, poquito de conflicto, pero eso me impulsó a pensar en algo. ¿Qué tal los nuevos aparatos para manos libres totalmente, nada más por voz? ¿Eso está permitido o nada?
Yes, what is not allowed is to use one of your hands with a phone. Yeah. Of course, that we have these hands-free technologies to use it. Meanwhile, you have your two hands and your attention driving. You can answer a phone or place a call using the hands-free. The rule says prohibido hablar por teléfono. That's refer to have one of your hands with the phone. Right. And that's where they say you need to have a cell phone holder that it's going to be.
Excepto manos libres donde dicen contesta, etc. No tiene que
Yep.
Está viendo el tráfico, conduciendo, pero nada más hablando sin tocar nada. Eso sí está permitido.
Yes, sir. Yes, you can use the hands-free systems. I mean, everyone are using all the time. Even in a red stoplight, maybe 2 minutes, and you can see the cars.
Okay, we have a few questions from our Zoom chat.
Okay, I'm going to read some of these questions. Of course, I just lost them. One of them was about, will this affect the number of people that can ride in the back of pickup trucks?
It is forbidden to transport people in a pickup truck. Unfortunately, the police use the pickup trucks to transport police. I mean, when I was the director, I can stop a car, and you have the football team right in the back of the pickup. All the students, all the players, no? And the driver is drunk because they came from a game. I mean, while they were playing, the adult was drinking. Can you just imagine how many ambulances do we need to attend an accident like this? And maybe in San Miguel, at the most, we can have maybe 5 or 6 ambulances at the same time. In the case that a crash with 2 buses full of people, we are in problems. Mm-hmm.
Another online question has to do with Transito and Mordidas. And will this affect things like paying $200 because you're not showing your driver's license and forget about it?
It's a violation. And meanwhile, you try to keep alive this culture, it's a circle. I mean, if you pay something like that, you must be understood that in case that somebody hits you and the other person paid to the police, and then you need to pay for the damage of your car and the other one, even when the other one was the person who hit you. But meanwhile, you keep this culture alive to give a mordida. Ahí está.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I understand the law completely, so thank you for that. Now, the question, since there's going to be no enforcement, the plan is for the population to self-regulate themselves on how to implement this law. I mean, if once they learn what the law is, the program is for them to correct themselves now that they know what the law is. So how many decades do you think that will take?
Well, when in Mexico started the program to make this alcohol test, in Mexico City, they were very clear. If you have more alcohol in your blood than they approve it, you go to jail in Mexico City. You go to jail.
But who's
administering
the test?
The police, the authorities.
Really?
Of course, the authority has the training, the devices, the how to do it, how to deal with this. We used to do it here 12 years ago. I mean, we stopped by very close of here during the nights, and all the cars, please, could you please soplar aquí, could you please? Oh, I'm sorry. In San Miguel, if you were drunk, if you violate this, you are free to go to your home, but we take the car to the corralón, and you need to pay 3,500 pesos for the fine. In Mexico City, you go to jail. Then in Guadalajara, they starting to do this. In Monterrey, in the big cities, they learn that using that specific has been working, and the number of car accidents go down. So that's why Uber was very popular, because you can go to a restaurant, if you are very happy, you drunk much, okay, you leave the car, call for an Uber, and go to your home safely. Okay? Before Uber, we don't have that opportunity, so most of the people, yes, I'm right to drive.
I would like to make two comments. Number one is that in the entire world, number one cause of accidents and death is speed. That goes for all countries. The second cause worldwide is alcohol and drugs, that we just talked about. Those are the two worst in the world. When you go to third and fourth, it differs according to the different countries and their particular way of dealing with traffic. But I just thought that was nice, because also I am myself concerned when I see the big trucks running on the expressway with 110 or 120 kilometers per hour. That is totally insane, actually. But anyway, that's how it is. I hope that will be changed. My question to you is, what kind of publications are going to be made and distributed to citizens so that we can be aware of what is happening? Is there any publication that you can imagine that will go to all the citizens, and how is that then going to be followed up when the new law is being further developed? Thank you.
You're welcome. Nowadays, social media is the most popular way to transmit information. So I'm sure that it's going to be influencers, people involved in give these tips how to keep the basics. The official governments, the local must start campaigns. As we started, when we started asking for the helmet, tell people, this is the violation. If you don't use it, we are going to give you a ticket. After a period of time, remember I told you, I'm going to give you a courtesy ticket. This is an awareness that you need to wear your helmet. And after sometimes, okay, because we tell you, sobre advertencia no hay engaño. It's an expression in Mexico. When I give you this before, I mean, I'm not cheating you, right? So this is going to be, I think, in my opinion nowadays, that social media will be one of the most important channels to send this information, testimonies from people that, oh, I have a problem because I didn't this, and nowadays this is important, blah, 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 blah. So it's going to take a time. I don't think decades. I'm not in agree with decades. I mean, this is going to be, because it's for the good of everyone.
Well, Adolfo, thank you very much for coming and being with us again. And so, in a token of appreciation, we are providing you with this certificate, and we're making a donation of 10 polio vaccinations in your name.
Very much. Thank you very much.
And since you keep coming back over and over again, we think you need a coffee cup too. So you get a coffee cup.
Thank you very much. My
Thank you.
favorite every morning.
Thank you, everybody. I just have something to add is when I grew up in rural Virginia, everybody rode in the back of the truck. And they changed the law, and it took a couple of years, but finally people don't ride in the back of the truck anymore. When I moved to Texas, it was against the law to drive without a beer. And then they changed the law that you couldn't drive with a beer. And we all complained, and we were all used to doing it the other way, but it didn't take decades. And you have to start somewhere. Having the law is so important. It's the first step, and we'll get there, and we'll be safer, and we'll be better.